All right, this is Ubaid on behalf of B Electronics, and in this video, we'll be looking at loans and banks. Okay, so when it comes to loans, how do bank give you loans? We're going to look at how mortgages are given out. Okay, and we're going to look at the entire process. So when it comes to mortgages, mortgages are basically a type of loan apart from all the other types of loans that banks give out, such as your line of credit, personal loans, auto loans, so on and so forth. Okay, now when mortgages are given out, okay, this is when consumers go to a bank, say for example, CIBC, RBC, what have you. Okay, so consumers go to a bank and they request a mortgage loan. Okay, so consumers go to a bank. All right, this is to request a mortgage loan. All right. Now, because consumers go to a bank, they're technically considered raw materials. Okay. When they go to a bank, okay, consumers would be sort of like a raw materials that the producers use to make the finished product. All right. So consumers, okay, and their demand, it would be raw material. Okay. The money they pay for the bank, okay, the money they pay for the mortgage. Okay, the interest and the principal would be raw materials. And the bank in this case would be your producer. All right, and this is your primary market. So this is primary market. All right. Now, once you have the bank, okay, sorting out your mortgage loan, what they will do is they will go ahead and get in touch with an intermediary. Okay, and they're called aggregates by some sources. Okay, we're talking about financial institutions that buy and sell mortgages. Okay, so these are financial institutions that buy and sell mortgages. All right, now when they buy and sell mortgages, okay, they buy from the bank in bundles. Okay, so this is a bundle, and this bundle is often known as mortgage security, okay, or mortgage backed up security. So mortgage backed up security. So this is backed up security. All right. So they will go ahead and buy in bundles. These are your mortgage backed securities. Okay. And they will sell these mortgages, okay, to their clients. Okay. And that would be your financial institutions, such as your insurance companies. Okay. Your insurance companies, institutions that deal with mutual funds. All right. And institutions that deal with pension funds. Okay. Such as RSP. Okay. So on and so forth. Now, when financial institutions, the intermediaries, when they buy and sell mortgages, Okay, they do so in what's called a secondary market. Okay, this is a secondary market. And these financial institutions may be backed up by the government directly, so it could be a national mortgage association of some sort. Okay, it could be a national association, an organization backed up by the government. Okay, so this is backed up by the government. And the reason why they're backed up by the government is when banks deal with these organizations, okay, they basically are dealing with low risk investments. Okay, so when they get backed up by the government, the investment risk, okay, the risk when it comes to this transaction is very low, such as your Canada Savings Bond, for example. Okay, so backed up by the government. And they may also deal with a publicly traded company. So, for example, you have a corporation, that would be an example of a publicly traded company. However, in this case, when banks deal with financial institutions that are publicly traded firms, okay, these firms are indirectly backed up by the government. Okay, indirectly backed up by the government, which also means that the risk is comparatively low. Okay, so indirectly backed up by the government. All right, now, once these financial institutions sell their mortgage package or mortgage bundle, okay, what we know as mortgage backed up securities, okay, they sell them to insurance companies and firms that deal with pension funds, mutual funds, so on and so forth. And these companies, okay, are companies that we deal with as consumers. Okay, so the last missing puzzle here, this would be consumers, because consumers invest in mutual funds. Okay, consumers, they buy insurance products. Okay, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a four-step process. Okay, the first step has to do with the primary market. The second step has to do with the secondary market. And the last step has to do with consumers. So sort of like your producer here, which is the bank. All right. And your financial institution would be sort of like your wholesaler. Okay, the ones that are backed up by the government. Okay, this would be sort of like your wholesaler. Okay, and the wholesaler's job is to buy in bulk and sell at a retail price. Okay, so sell a single quantity, for example, a single unit at a retail price. And who do they sell these units to? They sell it to the insurance companies or firms that deal with mutual funds. Okay, so they sell these units to insurance companies and firms that deal with mutual funds. Now, apart from that, okay, the last missing puzzle, as I said, would be consumers. Okay, now, given all this, okay, how do we know the value of the loan itself? How do we know the value of the mortgage loan? Okay, now, in terms of value, value is something of a market value. Okay, when you appraise a property, for example, the property is appraised based on certain factors such as type of construction, okay, the year when this building was constructed, okay, the type of materials used in terms of fire hazard, okay, so on and so forth. So when it comes to mortgage loan, okay, they are basically appraised based on market value. Okay, so another loan, the same kind of loan with the same kind of factors. All right. And the way these loans are appraised, okay, when it comes to financial institutions, okay, these guys, they consider a couple of factors when it comes to paying for these loans, mortgage bundles, mortgage loan bundles, or mortgage backed up securities. Number one has to do with the risk factor. Okay, so this has to do with risk when it comes to mortgage backed up securities. Okay, and the risk factor would be influenced by things such as the income of the borrower, would be the person who borrows the loans, or the consumers of the raw materials that I was talking about earlier. Okay, so we're talking about income of the borrower. All right, now apart from the income of the borrower, they may also look at the economy in general. Okay, if the economy is stagnant, the risk is high, they might end up paying less. Okay, so really depends on whether this is an economic growth around this time, okay, or a shrinkage. Okay, and the second part to this has to do with it was risk and interest. Interest. Okay, now if the borrowers are being charged lower interest than the market rate, okay, whatever is being offered in the market for the same kind of loan by other banks, for example, then obviously the financial institutions to whom the banks sell these loans to, okay, they will also pay a low interest. Okay, so low interest if borrowers pay a lower interest, pay less. Okay, and high interest if borrowers pay more. All right. So this is basically what they're saying over here. As long as you have these two factors, okay, the financial institutions can make a decision whether or not they want to go ahead and buy and sell a loan. All right. So that would be it for this video. On behalf of V Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.